Hello, everyone, and welcome to Light News Radio, Realms of Self-Empowerment. Now, next month will be 5 years that we've been broadcasting. We bring you topics on the mind, body, spirit, and the tools and techniques to awaken you to higher states of consciousness. I'm Dr. J, your host, and my amazing co-host is Deirdre Layton. And I'm going to bring her on here. And together we the physics where the spiritual rubber hits the road, real life teachings and applications that are pertinent and relevant to you. We hope that here you can find for you the fresh air of real consciousness. You think I'd be reading this for 5 years, right? Real consciousness education while avoiding the hype and the fascination. We are all about assisting you to empower your life through understanding your true spiritual nature. So come aboard our beam of light and enlighten your load as we travel the waves of knowledge and wisdom for the next hour. And here's my wonderful Deirdre upside down.
I don't know why. And I've been trying to turn it around. Sorry.
It's a new form of radio. It's called the orangutan method. If any of you come equipped with a prehensile tail or any opposing thumbs on your feet, you're welcome to hang from the nearest branch to be able to focus in. Oh my gosh, what happened?
I'm on my iPad, and so I just had to.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
You got to quit monkeying around there, Deirdre.
Well, it's good to be on the show today.
It's good to have you on the show. I'm going to move this back just a little bit here because I was told last time that when the actual program aired, that
You were too close?
your image was blacking out my head.
Oh.
And Lord knows we don't want my head to be blocked. It's already blocked enough.
Oh, well, it's good. It's good to be here. I'm, yeah.
Happy almost May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It is a holiday that gives us a lot of excuses to imbibe cerveza.
Yes.
And that's hit Canada like wildfire. So, oh, good.
Yeah. So I was thinking about the show today because I think the topic of mediumship and channeling is something that is a lot of fun, for one thing, but also it can be very helpful for individuals. So I think that this is a really great topic for you, for today, for us, for today.
Yeah. Okay. Got all that out in one piece, did you?
Got it. Yeah. Working on it. Oh, yeah. I'm almost back to normal.
Well, we've all had a lot on the go recently, and life is a whole series of kind of like events that define us. How we handle those is definitely whether we're run hiding and screaming to get into some dark corner, or stand virtuous on the precipice facing the sun. So most of us are somewhere in between. So yes. Yeah, I've been thinking about what would be a good topic for today. Certainly those people who are tuning into Light News Radio, we've been broadcasting ever since June of 2014. So this is our 5th year to come on now and to hold this program in such esteem. We've had many guests, but for the most part, you and I have been doing this program solo, for this year, as a matter of fact.
Well, you've been doing it solo mostly this year.
Yeah, you've been otherwise occupied, but you're back in the flow now, so everything's up and happening. So, we in the field of spirituality and metaphysics, there's so many things that one could speak about. And you'll find people who are seekers who have a lot of honest questions but don't really know exactly how to approach the subject matter, especially when the subject matter is mediumship or channeling. And then, maybe the average person sees an advertisement in a local magazine. Some man or woman advertises that they channel a certain being or that they are a medium, like James Van Praagh or Sylvia Browne or people like that. But, I wanted to have the program today so we could talk a little bit about, what that actually is, what actually happens. And first, I'd like us to agree that there is a realm that interpenetrates this one that we call the astral dimension. And so think of it as having two light sources in the room. You could say there's a light coming from over there and there's a light coming from over here, but they intersect right here. And yet right here in this empty space between my fingers, you can't really see which light comes from where unless it touches something, like the light from over there touching this side of my face, or the light from over there touching this side of my face. So this is one of the most difficult aspects about the spiritual nature of the human being, is the existence in a realm we call astral dimension that actually has uniqueness.
Yes.
Beings and people and and nature spirits and so forth, but also is not limited to time or space. And believe me, anybody that's listened to these programs over the years, you've heard me say this many, many times, because it is something that once we at least have an abiding respect for the truth that these two realms exist simultaneously, like two sides of the same coin, now we have something that we can go from. So for instance, Uncle Joe passes away 2 years ago, and then a medium comes in and says, well, I sense a presence here, somebody named Joe who wants to come and tell you those cigars are very bad for you. And, the people in the room goes, well, yeah, I had an Uncle Joe. He passed away 2 years ago. So it's not for entertainment. What Deirdre and I do, I hope sometimes will be humorous, but not so much to be regarded as entertainment, but we are a wellness program. We are here to educate, illuminate, elucidate. We are here to help a person who is a seeker to understand what is the spiritual nature, so that you as a person will say, okay, there really is much more to me than just flesh and blood. There really is a value to me knowing this information. That knowing this information in some way makes me a better person, because I realize I'm never separate from what I seek, and therefore my feelings of aloneness or alienation are unfounded. What psychologists call limiting belief systems. So the whole purpose of Light News Radio is to help us to dissolve these limiting belief systems, so that we really do stand on our own 2 feet as self-empowered, realized beings. That means we see the illusions as they are.
So true. It is so true. It's interesting because you know how you talk about Joe and someone coming into the room.
Yeah.
The reason I haven't really been on the show a lot lately is that my mom became ill in September. I was there for the month of December. I was there for most of January, February, and all of March. And she passed in March. And it's interesting because for 2 days before she passed, I would be driving to the hospital. And I know without a doubt that my father was sitting in the passenger seat of the car with me every single time I went. And it's interesting because the message to me was that she needed to know she wasn't alone either. Like, not just that I wasn't alone, but that she wasn't alone, because I know in the end of her time here.
And you're driving in the car while this is happening.
I'm driving in the car, and my mom is at the hospital. And she was quite afraid of being alone. And so it was important for my father to come and give that energy so that I
Like
could
support.
exactly, and let her know that she isn't alone. So there's many reasons that we have people come and join us, and I
So,
say that, have them come and join us, because they're real. That even
well,
though
but is that mediumship or channeling?
that is more of a medium. I'm when I have someone come and visit me like that, I am more of a medium. I am more of, this information is coming to me to give to someone else. If I was channel, if I was channeling,
Sorry.
then that's okay. If I was channeling, then that person would actually come through me with the information, not
Okay.
give me the information. The reason that,
So
mm-hmm,
before we continue, may I just take a moment to explain what I feel is the difference between mediumship and
sure,
channeling? Um, you know that I've been teaching a form of energy medicine and energy psychology for many years now called integrative chakra therapy, and Deirdre is a highly qualified instructor, and we have students in the US and Canada. And they go through a level of study, just like you would in any degree program. This is a 2-year program. And, you know, part of those courses involve mediumship and channeling so that an energy healer understands what that is, you know, because
yes,
to go into a certain type of healing and to not know, you're
not
not well
safe.
equipped. You're not well equipped for your job. So think of a mediumship as Deirdre calls me on the phone and says, "Hey, Dr. J, tell Bev that I'll be there at 2 o'clock." And so I'm with Bev and I say, "Hey, Bev, I just got a message from Dee, and she said to tell you that she'll be there at 2 o'clock." And Bev says, "Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Appreciate that." The channeling would be, now all of a sudden I'm in the room with Bev and I am Dee. And
Yes,
I don't mean that in a humorous way. I just mean I take on the demeanor, the disposition, even the context of facial cues,
yes, you
the
can.
the the tenor of my voice, the cadence of what I say, the actual emanation of myself is now Deirdre instead of me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in channeling, you are that being.
That's right.
And in higher forms of channeling, there is a quality that comes through that the Tibetans would call a transmission. And so that is like if some very sacred being, no matter what your religion, there are always beings, men and women, who have achieved such a state of perfection that they can work with us from the level that they are. And this is a form of channeling that we've seen in the media, right? And we've seen this in every major city has, you know, magazines and blog posts where people that really do channel. Some good, some not so good. That's life. That's what happens. Mediumship is also very common where you're just speaking on behalf of someone else. Deirdre told me to tell you. And so these are two very different forms of working with beings who are in a higher dimension, the astral dimension, and perhaps maybe even more than that. And
Yes.
so some of this work is incredibly valid, accurate, meaningful, supportive, definitely fits right in with the era that we're in. And some of it is poetic fantasy that has no, you know, now is the time for us to be nice to each other, blah, 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 blah. And there is some of that. And so, you know, embedded within Light News Radio is always Deirdre and Mai's intent that you be discerning, that you be skeptical, but in a healthy kind of skeptical way, where you're asking the really important questions. Because this is very hard to convey in a factual way. And this is the problem between objectivity and subjectivity. Objectivity, you know, you take an x-ray of your finger and you can clearly see the bones, and anybody with a set of eyes can look and they can see the bones. But subjectively, if we're doing this on a higher level of our own being intuitively, if we're channeling or if we're being mediumship, sometimes that's very difficult. So I'm just looking at a
So,
question here,
well,
Dee.
I'll read them to you.
Oh, okay.
Leah Lacert would like to know, can you
Sure.
start to channel by accident?
Sometimes.
And then she says, like when I'm doing assessments, sometimes a different voice comes through and demeanor. Yeah, you can.
Sometimes you can be susceptible to the influence of other beings when
Yes.
you start down a spiritual path. That's why you always work in the safety way. No different if you joined your local gym and you had a trained instructor walking you through the weights in the
Right.
safety way, neither too
Yep.
much nor too little, so that you're trained in the proper way. So this is also very important spiritually, because you don't want to channel a being you're not ready to channel. Right?
Exactly.
That can be very dangerous.
It can
And
be.
you could be working out of your depth, the same way as if Deirdre went over to that weight and said, "Oh, Richard, it's only 600 kilograms. I can press that."
Yeah.
Well,
That's
maybe.
but that's so true. I mean, sometimes people will take on other people's energy and think that
Hmm.
they're channeling when really they're taking on sometimes not such nice energy. So
Yeah.
really ask for credentials. Always ask for credentials, I always say. And
Hmm.
Sheila McDonald wants to know, what is it when you get a message from a guide or an angel? Is it channeling or mediumship?
Well, that sounds a lot like mediumship.
Mediumship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the angel or the guide is saying, you know, that last tarot card that you played, you know, that's a lot more important than you think it is. So that's like someone calling you on the phone and saying, okay, well, take another look at that card. It probably means a lot more. Maybe take a second look. So,
Well,
you know,
and it's
well, again, Dee, you know, we're living in a realm where we have to exercise caution. You know, we're not
mm-hmm.
telling anyone listening to Light News Radio to just start going out in mediumship and channel in
No,
the same way we're telling you not to go pick on your nearest black belt karate master.
or the bear,
You know,
poke the bear.
or poke the bear. You know, there's the reason why what I teach in integrated chakra therapy is 2 years is for a very good reason, is it takes time to integrate this level of growth. It's not something that happens overnight. So please do not attempt to be a medium or a channel if you have no preparation for it. Seek out someone who does, or a qualified energy psychologist or energy medicine practitioner who can help you to do this
Develop.
in the safety way.
That's
So
right.
I want to tell one short story, then I'm going to turn it over to Dee, because I know she's got lots to say. So I'm in San Diego. This is my home, and I come to Calgary very often. Deirdre's home was in Calgary. She's still there now, but we'll be moving. And we have these Monday night practices that we do in San Diego and Calgary. We offer free energy balancing to the public. In Calgary, second and fourth Mondays, in San Diego, first and third Mondays. Okay, so Deirdre's driving her car to go set up the evening, you know, so that our graduates can come and provide free energy balancing to the public, which is what we do as a clinic. So my phone rings, and Deirdre says, "Hello, Richard. Yes, I'm driving to the place where we're going to do the free energy balancing. And as I'm driving, this question came to me, and I wanted to ask you." She's calling me on the phone, right? I'm in San Diego, and she says, "Did your dad?" Now, Deirdre never met my dad. He passed away 19 years ago. And Deirdre never met my dad, but she says on the phone, she said, "Did he ever use Old Spice cologne?" Now, Deirdre wouldn't know Old Spice from Brute to Old Monkey Wrench, you know, cologne, right? I mean, why should she? And so when my dad was when I was a little boy growing up in my mom and dad's house, my dad had two things that he always used in the bathroom. One of them was Suave hair cream, right? And one was Old Spice. He never had any other type of hair preparation, never had any other type of cologne, just those two. And I said, well, yes, Deirdre, my dad did use Old Spice. Why do you ask? And she says to me, well, because he's sitting right next to me here in the car, and he has a message for you. And over the years, Deirdre has been a medium for my dad and brought forth these messages to me of reassurance, of calming and reassurance. Well, and this has been very touching, because how could Deirdre possibly know? And this is the real deal. This is what really happens, both in mediumship, as we explained, but also in channeling. Because when I come to Calgary next week, guess what? I'm going to be channeling.
And what happened the last time you were no, was it the last time you were channeling? Anyhow,
what's
Dr.
that?
Moriyama decided to come through me and just have a discussion with you the last time you were here. Yeah, so there's been many opportunities, but the interesting thing is when you are acting as a medium, you're acting in the highest good of both realms. Right. You're acting in the highest good of the person who is relaying the message to you to share, and in the highest good of the person that you are sharing that message to. Mm-hmm. One of the messages that I have given you over the years was your dad saying, don't worry, I'm preparing the way. And that was when your daughter decided to come with all of the grandchildren unexpectedly to San Diego yeah. for a visit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last night I did a flower reading for a group of women in Calgary, and I had 2 people come with messages during that flower reading, and I'm finding more and more that happens as I'm giving the information about the flower and helping the person. Someone else will say, oh, but you're missing this, and you need to let them know this as well. Right. And so it was interesting, because I had a gentleman walk into the room, and all I could smell was cigars. So I knew that it was for this person. And they said, oh, do you ever smell cigars? And I said, well, sometimes I do. So it's interesting. And the message was, not to worry. There was mm-hmm. It was a comforting message. So mm-hmm. these things do happen. And back to my father sitting in the vehicle next to me, yet he never said anything. I knew that his presence was going to be for that purpose. That's an excellent statement, Deirdre. I want to just capitalize on what you just said, because he didn't say anything, but he still conveyed a feeling to you. And exactly. you interpreted that feeling. So just I think what's important for our listeners is mediums may not always convey the words, but sometimes you get the expression or the reassurance or the presence, like, I'm here, I'm not going to go away, I'm here to soothe you, I'm here to help you. So, different people who do mediumship and channeling, they have different ways of connecting to those spirits. And we're talking all about spirits, and not all of them are people. That's true. We talked in terms of our fathers, Deirdre's father, my father, Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama, who was the founder of California Institute for Human Science, who was very close to me. But you might get a nature spirit. You might get an animal. I was just going to say that. You might get a beloved pet that passed away 7 years ago, and then all of a sudden that pet comes here. Remember how you used to put that little treat on my nose before you'd let me eat it? How much that really pissed me off. But it's true. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be a guide. It could be, but then, there's lots of different types of beings in the astral dimension. So you want to be fairly careful and discerning who you let into your home. We had at a practice one night at Families Matters, was working with a lady on the table, and I knew that her husband had recently passed. And she was going through the grieving process because everyone grieves at their own pace. And
Right.
I said to her, I said, but what does the little schnauzer have to do with everything? And she just looked at me, and I said, because there's a schnauzer with him. And she said, that was our puppy. And that dog went everywhere with him, never left his side,
Yeah.
and had
Yeah.
passed shortly
It's
after he
true.
did. And so, you know, there are so many things that we can't physically understand here because we can't get out of our head to accept that we are so all connected energetically, that we are all living in the
Right.
oneness already.
Not just a person, but a
No.
pet. I mean, my beloved parrot, I have a beautiful blue-fronted Amazon parrot who on April 26th just turned 32. And I've had him since he was 7 months old. And there will come a day when he's no longer here. But I think that he came through for Deirdre at one time too, even though he's still physically here. And so sometimes a person can also come through even though they're not only in the astral dimension. So are you reading those texts as they come
Yes,
up?
I
Yeah,
am. So we
yeah,
have a couple more. We have
sure.
like mediumship with things in the Diva Kingdom. So
Yeah.
that was when we were talking about on top of pets and guides. And then, so yes, yes, Leah. And
Deva
then,
Kingdom. Deva
yeah,
Kingdom means the spirit of the lake, the spirit of the wind, the spirit of the mountain, but also fairies, elves, gnomes,
pixie.
brownies, sprites, pixies, leprechauns, alushas. Those are real. I know that listening to this show, sometimes people go, yeah, but this is 30 years of doing this work talking, and I'm too old and I'm too firm in what I know that I feel within my being to let that go. So to me, those kingdoms are just as real as you and I speaking to each other right now.
Yeah. Well, Sheila's was just a comment
Oh yeah.
about Fraggle Rock and how it gets in her head. So that's how things come to her, is kind of like she gets them, and you think it's weird to say it out loud, but then someone will make the most sense of what and who they say at the moment. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I was going to say, I was asked the other day when I was talking about a meditation workshop that I'm about to get going on, and they said, "Well, when you meditate, can you accidentally channel or become a medium?" And I had to really think about it for a moment, because when you're meditating, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually letting go of everything, so that you're not really sitting and looking for something to come in or to pick up a message.
Right.
So I did say to that person that I'm sure that it has happened to teachers who are very spiritually connected, but I would be very disconcerting of having someone kind of intrude into your space while you are doing a practice that is spiritually helping you. And
And
I'm sorry, but the reason I say that is because there are certain certain entities, I want to call them, that will come on and say that they are so and so, and that they are really nice, and that they are offering the best message for the person in the room, but they may not necessarily. And you have a really good story about someone coming to one of your events and claiming he was,
ah,
right, yeah,
a channel, a
a
channel. Yeah.
channel.
Well, the short of that story was this person came to one of my full moon meditations. I'm doing full moon meditations since 1992. And he was bragging before the meditation that he channeled a certain being, which was a beautiful extraterrestrial woman. and he gave a name. And I was within earshot of this conversation before the evening got started, and I thought, oh, that's interesting that he channels that being. So that's how the evening's going to go. So we sit in a circle in the room, and of course this person sits opposite me, which is kind of like a power spot. And I go through the beautiful meditation, and then, you know, afterwards I'll usually speak for a little bit before we open it up for conversation. And I said, you know, by the way, did you know that there was someone earlier tonight saying that they channeled this beautiful female extraterrestrial being by a certain name? And I said, well, but did you know, if you look it up, that that being is actually not nice, to put it mildly. It's really something else. And so, you know, the average seeker who listens to Light News Radio might say, well, how can I know? How do I know? You know, what if I want to channel, and how would I know? What if I want to be a medium? That's when you come to qualified teachers who can help you to grow in the safety way. Imagine you went to a qualified clinical psychologist. Do you think that psychologist would turn you loose in 2 seconds if they thought that you were doing something in an unsafe matter psychologically? So the same thing is true with the responsibility that we carry as being teachers in the spiritual realm. It's a tremendous responsibility to nurture and care for your personal
Safety.
growth in what my teacher called the safety way. So individuals like Deirdre and myself, we take this very seriously. You know, love and respect are the foundations of what we do. And we will never, ever compromise that. So if Deirdre says, yeah, you know, I brought forth Richard's dad, I brought forth my dad, Dr. Lodayama, she really does, but respectfully and appropriately.
So Sheila wants to know, how can you discern? How can you know when someone isn't of the highest good when they're trying to come through? And how would you ask them for the credentials?
Well, on the one hand, it's a subjective experience. You know,
Exactly.
there's not a photo ID or a passport photo that says I'm from Jupiter, and this is good for 2022. At the same
Really?
time, you do the best you can. You know, you say things like, "Are you of the light? Are you of love?" You know, and really you have to trust your feelings. But it's like anything else in life that requires faith. And the thing about the spirituality of the human being is that without faith, it's almost impossible to grow spiritually. You can awaken your chakras all you want, but if you don't have a strong moral and ethical fiber within the awakening of those chakras, it's not going to do you any good. And within awakening the chakras, there also has to be some form of faith where your reach is extending beyond your grasp. And that's where people have a lot of valid questions. How do I know that I'm really channeling, or I'm really a medium for this person, and it's not just some guy down the street? And that's where diligence, faith, inner fortitude count for a lot. You have to trust and be with qualified teachers. You know, if you're going to fly in an airplane, it's always good to fly with the pilot who's actually has experience of flying the plane.
Yes.
So, you know, be with people who know what they're talking about. And if you sense BS, I don't care if that person has MS, PhD, REV, whatever it is. If you sense BS, then it's not right for you. You have to trust your feelings. And I think, Deirdre and I, there's no way we can say this enough.
Yes. And Sheila goes, but can they lie? Of course they can.
Yeah, sure.
Of course they can.
Did you ever meet a salesperson?
Yeah.
So sometimes they're not as truthful as they could be. I mean, this doesn't apply to all salespeople, of course. But sometimes people will say whatever they need to say to get you to do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
And it could be that everybody watching this broadcast could say, yeah, I met a person like that.
Yeah. I think Sheila, the biggest thing for someone who is looking at becoming a medium or honing their skills would be to really pay attention to what it feels like when the person is trying to connect with you. And if by any chance you get a feeling that it isn't appropriate, like I mean, I have been in situations where I've done billet work, whereas people you write out
Right.
on a card, and then I ask
You write a
the
question on a card anonymously.
and then ask for guidance. And I have had people try to push their way in to give the answer. And when and this is hard to explain. I was standing at the front of the Universal Church one day, and I was reading billets, and I had 9 people sitting in the pew beside me, but there
I
really was
remember.
not 9 people sitting there. It was
I remember
just
that.
a line of spirits that wanted to speak with me. And what I found was that the one person was really aggressive in how they were portraying themselves to have their message. They, in the end, they said, "Well, you didn't choose me," and blah 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 blah. And it was a very aggressive spirit, and I knew that it wasn't going to have the best information for anyone in the room at that time, and it may not have been the best for myself, because and I don't want to freak anybody out, but sometimes entities and demons and things like that, if you are channeling, will try to attach themselves to you as well and relay their message. And so it really is so important to learn to do this in a
Properly.
safety way. Yeah. And to clear and
And to be discerning.
exactly. And to be very clear and to cleanse your auras, your chakras, everything about you afterwards, because you really don't need to take home somebody else's loved one as well.
That's right. And so being discerning, having faith, these are all very important. Our website, we usually check in halfway through the show. We're a little bit beyond that now, but our website is www.lightnews.org, lightnews.org, lightnews.org. You can always send in your questions, your comments, your concerns, and subject matter that you'd like to see on future Light News radio programs. Also, did you miss the program today? How would you know? So our programs are always archived on the YouTube channel, and we will at some point have links to that on our website so that you can just click on over and see the shows and their titles. Last week we had a fabulous show on telepathy, and
I'm sorry, there's a comment
oh,
here. But go ahead, finish your train of thought, and then I'll read this out.
Yeah, I forgot what the rest of the title was.
Oh, the telepathy. Okay.
It was telepathy and something else. Sorry.
Time travel.
Time travel. That's right. I was in another time zone, I suppose. And
I
so
was.
we had a lovely show with great questions. And of course, when Deirdre came on, we were not using these headsets. So we had this wonderful echo of time coming through, which was not a fun thing. But slowly but surely, we keep mastering the technological things of our day. And it's only going to keep getting better. So anyway, the shows are all archived for you.
Yes. So Sheila wanted to know, she said, I was told if you ask them about their percentage of light, they are not able to lie about that. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
But but yes. And let me give you a really good example, because I was going over some reflective practices with one of my students today. And level 1 of healers training and levels 2 are on the same weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So level 1 is you look at the archetypes: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. Okay. And so when you're making an assessment energetically, you look at the 4 archetypes. Level 2, you look at the 3 levels of the biofield: the etheric, the astral, and the mental field. So students go, oh my God, this was hard enough on Saturday to look at these 4 archetypes. Now you want me to look at these 3 levels of the biofield. So think of it this way. when you say, what is the percentage of light coming through? That's your way of making an assessment. Now, using my example, let's say Saturday of the archetypes is I take a thermograph of my hand, you know, a temperature reading of my hand with a device that measures thermography, okay? And then Sunday, I take an X-ray of my hand, a completely different kind of equipment, looking at the same thing, but different outcome. So when students are told, okay, look at the archetypes and assess them intuitively, that's like the thermograph. If I say day 2, now we look at the biofield, that's like X-ray. So it's like using a different perspective to look at the same thing. So when you say, what percent of light are you? It's your way of creating a format for your mind to say, I'm going to assess the goodness or the sweetness of your being coming through. And the same question can be for the student as for your question, which is, how do you know you're right? And the bottom line is you have to have faith in your own veracity, your ability to hold ultimate truth, standing in the presence of the divine, to know and have faith that what you're doing is the right thing, and you do your best. And sometimes will you flub up a little bit? Sure, sometimes we all make mistakes, but it's the effort that keeps defining us. So yes and no. You're using your perspective to measure the percentage of light. Great. But could another person say, oh, I need to see what color you are, because to me green means you're okay and red means eh. If that's how that practitioner uses their mind to perceive goodness or non-goodness, that's fine, because all intuitive abilities go to the same place. We are already all merged into oneness. There's no separation, but we just have different ways of looking at the same thing.
Well, and I think her question too also wanted to know, are they able to lie? If you ask
Yes.
them what percentage of, yes, they are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, I like to think about when I'm working with individuals and practicing mediumship. A child cannot lie until they're taught how to lie. So when you're working with spirits that have crossed over, they're often not children. They're often been around for a long time.
For the most
So
part.
if they really want to use you as their chalice, you could say,
Yeah.
and you are not prepared in really understanding what your gift is, then it is it's important to know that they'll tell you whatever they want you to hear so that they get their work done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's where the discerning part comes in. And I know we've been talking quite a bit about that, but you know, just think of the average listener to this program tunes into mediumship and channeling, you know, where would you begin? And on the other side of the coin, how do you find a qualified medium or a qualified channeler? Well, one way could be word of mouth. Another one is when you're looking through the Metaphysical Magazine or the online resource to trust what your feelings are telling you. That's hard sometimes if we have no reference points to be able to connect the dots to say, well, but I've never been to a channel, but I've never been to a medium.
Ask your friends if they've been, what their experience was like.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And the other thing too is, you know, a medium who's not a good medium, or a medium who brings forth spirits that are not very good, might focus you only on money and material things.
It's true.
Or a channel who's not very good, or channels beings who are not so good. You know, they might also focus you on material gain, how you can get ahead, how you can beat the other guy. And, you know, in the purest sense, because that's where Deirdre and I must operate, is in the purest sense, is that a real medium and a real channel is always going to seek to help you awaken spiritually, meaning your highest and your greatest good. Not about getting the money, which, don't get me wrong, There's nothing wrong with me receiving all kinds of money from the universe. Oh, look, it just fell out of the sky. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's the only motivation, is only the material gain, you're missing the entire point. The entire point of the spiritual nature is to realize that this is a lifetime that is extremely important, because this is where the focus of our consciousness is, but there's more to it than that. Simply, as you realize that there's much more to you than just a physical nature, you start to see through the illusions that cause such unnecessary suffering because we perceive ourselves to be separate from our environment. You couldn't be separate if you tried, but the mind often accepts the belief system, the limiting belief system that you are. It's not true, but we can be compelled to say, I'm separate, nah, that doesn't work out. So you want to go to a medium or a channel who they themselves are very vested in the truth itself, and that the only beings that come through them are, on the one hand, if it's a channel, you want to have higher beings come through, and on the other hand, sometimes mediums do bring forth a relative who's rather salty.
That's true.
So the medium might say, well, this sailor says he's related to you and he's coming through, but I don't know if I want to say the words that he's saying, but let me say some of the essence of what he's saying. Because people are people, and mediums are generally conveying the words and intentions and thoughts of people who have passed on. But that's not always so. Sometimes it is nature spirits, sometimes it's elevated beings, sometimes it's masters and guides. I've been go ahead.
I was going to say, what was that movie that Whoopi Goldberg was?
Ghost.
Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Demi Moore.
That's a really good movie. There's a part of that movie, and it's a really good shot of what can happen when someone isn't really, really prepared, but does have her own strength and power to say no, because the spirit came into her body, and that's not what she was expecting. I would suggest, just for the fun of it, anyone out there who's watching their show today, go rent it or watch it just for a kick, because it's really good. And yeah.
Yeah, what happened to Whoopi Goldberg? She was a sham medium, and then when she met Patrick Swayze, who was now a ghost, as the real deal, it alarmed the you-know-what out of her.
Yeah.
But then once the other beings in the astral dimension found out that she was real, they all lined up to come through her, because they figured, now we've got an avenue to reach into the physical dimension.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that, when I went through my spiritual training to become an ordained reverend in the Universal Church of the Master, and I've been ordained since 1995, is part of our training was mediumship and channeling. And so I started channeling many different types of beings, all very sacred, very holy, especially one that is called Kuan Yin. And I was doing it often for the public, both in church services and sometimes for individuals or groups of people, like the Whole Earth Expo, upper executive leadership. And then when I started teaching my students, I only channeled Kuan Yin for my students when they got to almost the last level of their being. And I stopped channeling publicly, I think, in 2002. So now, for the first time in however many years that is, 17 years, I'm going to channel for the public a week from tonight, May 10th, I think that is, in the northern part of the Calgary area, Deirdre, for a lovely group of people. And I might do more, but to me this is so holy and so sacred, I would not do it for entertainment. It's more like what comes through me is a transmission, a very powerful healing transmission. So, I take this very seriously. It's very holy. It's a tremendous responsibility to do it with respect, honor, and nobility. And I'm very humbled that I can do this, and I most certainly can. Deirdre's seen it many times, and I know
I
Deirdre
also
can.
see how wiped out you get.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that will be interesting to see because the next weekend I have a group graduating. Group Calgary Group 17 is going to
yeah.
graduate from over 2 years of ICT work, integrated shock therapy, and so we'll see how I am. Maybe I'll come in with a glow, right?
Yeah. But it's good. It's good. And it's nice to be able to share those messages with individuals.
Mm,
And I know when you channel Kuan Yin, it's not a verbal channel. It is
yeah.
a energetic channel.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Although I used to speak, like in the 90s, Kuan Yin would, and my face would change. I'd start, looking more and more less Caucasian and more Asian. And and Kuan Yin would speak out loud in those days, but now it has been just kind of like where my mouth is going like this, and I can remember most of what comes through. So inevitably, when I'm done with the channeling, people have a lot of questions as to what did Kuan Yin want to say to them, but it's more of a direct transmission. That power of that being is coming right through me to everyone in the room,
Hmm.
and most likely to anyone that ever tunes into it as well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're going to have a great night. And I know Ken and Sheila are listening, and that's where we're going to be in Airdrie. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And who knows? Maybe I'll do more. I don't know. It depends on what I'm guided inwardly to do, but always in completely sacred trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the hour, I think. I'm
We
not
got about
sure.
nine minutes, I think.
Yeah. What else
Is
are
that
you
right?
doing? What else are you doing in Calgary when you're
Well,
here? And of course, what are you doing in San Diego? Because I know that you've been doing a lot of things there as well.
we are on Meetup. We are on Facebook. We have a website, lightnews.org, where you can always track what we're doing.
Sorry, my phone went off.
Oh, it just said you wanted to be in my video.
Yeah.
But you can always track us. You can always track us that way. And I do send out a newsletter now and then. We have free healing every first and third Mondays in San Diego, second and fourth Mondays in Calgary. I will be doing a flower reading here. Haven't done them here in San Diego for a while on Tuesday night, May 7th. On May 9th through 15th, I will be in Calgary doing a number of workshops and healers training and channeling. And then after
Astral
that,
travel.
astral travel. And then in San Diego, I'm also lecturing at a group called Oasis, Lifelong Learning for people who are a little bit older, but it's for any age group. It's extremely reasonable. And both North and Southern San Diego County are hosting me for several lectures out through the summer. And it's all very reasonable and lots of fun, including chakras, doorways to higher understanding, astral travel, past lives, karma, and reincarnation. So, we have a lot to teach and we have a lot to learn. So we'll have fun together. Always check with our website and the meetups and the Facebooks, and we'll keep you informed. And if you're not on our mailing list, just go to the website, lightnews.org, and there's a place right there where you can subscribe. Also, Deirdre and I do private sessions worldwide. I have clients all over the planet on every major continent. Haven't done Antarctica yet, but maybe soon. But if you're interested in a private session, they're very powerful. We record them for you. So just be our guest and let us know.
And I will be carrying on the work of Dr. Richard Jelicic in British Columbia very soon and traveling back and forth to Alberta for, of course, Group 2021. And it'll be lots of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. So any questions you ever have, don't ask. No, sorry. Any
That's what
questions
I
you
usually
ever
say. Yeah, never ask us.
just drop us a line. And you can always reach us at 877-242-5721 or info@lightnews.org. Of course, we check in on these recordings and you can leave your comments below or, reach out to us. It's great to be back on air. I've enjoyed this today immensely.
That's a good point, Dee. And remember, these shows are archived. So if you have friends that you wanted to have see this show, they are on YouTube. And of course, YouTube always provides you a handy dandy little link that you can send over to your friends so that they can watch the show. And then, of course, ask us lots of questions. Again, I want to repeat something. If you have a great idea that you'd like to have Deirdre and I talk about, you know, we have so much subject matter, like, you know, what is it to go out of body, or what do you want to know more about the chakras, or what is it to be possessed, right? We have a lot of experience in the world of metaphysics and spirituality. And if you have questions, please do forward them to us, and we will consider it for a future Light News Radio Realms of Self-Empowerment show. Happy
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's been really nice to see you. And yes, Carol, thank you. It was an important topic. So, yeah.
It is, and I've got 5 minutes left on my clock here, Dee, and I'm not
Isn't
about
that?
ready to jump
Oh,
off this
really?
show. Well,
That's funny. I have two. That's
my
okay.
watch says 3:56 in
Oh.
San Diego time. What does yours say in what galaxy quadrant are you in now?
I have 4:58.
4:58. Is that in the Sagittarius arm of the galactic center?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Okay.
is.
Have we got question? Have we got a question here?
No, we haven't.
Oh, these are thank yous. All right, then I guess we will. I want to thank everybody. We love you so much. We love doing these programs, and we love your questions. So please do keep sending those questions in. Lightnews.org is who we are. Light News, Realm of Self-Empowerment. And as always, may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever constant, ever present guide of your every intention, of your every thought, and of your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. Stay attuned, everyone. We love you very much. Thank you.